What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at whether it's worth getting Dr. Ratio's E1 or his S1, and if so, which one would be better, assuming you can only get one of them. TLDR, the answer is the S1, and it's not even close, but for those of you interested in the math and the calculations, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Firstly, we're going to go over the rules and stipulations for this test. As usual, the damage formula is up here. This will change depending on what we're testing. The build we're going to be going over is a level 80 Dr. Ratio running the 2-piece follow-up attack set, 2-piece imaginary damage, 2-piece Salsoto that gives him a little bit of crit rate and ups his damage for his follow-up attack and ultimate by 15%, which is really good. Crit damage chest, which doesn't really matter too much in these calculations because I set it at 150. Speed boot, imaginary orb as discussed. We're running attack rope, and in the subs we have 17.5%, which is about one roll of attack percent on every piece. So overall, this build is nothing too crazy. We're also going to be adding the trace bonuses, which he gets 28% in the traces. He gets 15% crit rate and 30% crit damage with the summation trace. And the deduction trace, he gets 50% damage bonus, assuming that we have 5 debuffs on our enemy, which for this test, for all of them, we're going to assume that we have 5 debuffs on the enemy at all times for simplicity's sake. The light cone we're going to be using for our baseline test is going to be an S5 cruising in the Stellar C, which is the free-to-play Hurt-a-Shot light cone for hunt characters. Gives us a flat 529 attack and a conditional 40% attack increase depending on if we kill an enemy or not. At the baseline test, he's running a 2460 attack, 150% crit damage, and then 48.8 imaginary damage. That is the orb and the 2-piece imaginary set. This is the number of, if we add all 3 of these together, his skill, ultimate, and follow-up attack. I know it seems really low, but remember, guys, this is only Dr. Ratio himself with his light cone and the set bonuses and nothing else. No supports, no nothing, none of that stuff. So it's just him by himself. Okay, going over the damage formula for his skill is just regular. Everything that's up here is pretty much what is down here. It only changes when we talk about his ultimate and his follow-up attack because there's other set bonuses that apply only to follow-up and ultimate set. For instance, we have the damage boost that we get from the Salsoto piece, 15% damage increase there. And then for follow-up attack, we have a little bit more because we have the follow-up attack set for the 20% and then 15% for the Salsoto. Now, our baseline damage over 4 turns in MOC 12. On turn 1, we start off with our skill. The skill, since we have 5 debuffs up, is going to trigger the follow-up attack. And then that is going to add on to the 70 energy we start off MOC with, giving us a total of 105 energy. Not enough for us to ultimate, leaving us a total damage of about 17k. Turn 2 comes around, we do the exact same thing, but this time we have enough energy to ult. Turn 3 comes around, and because we ulted, we have the Wise Man's Folly, which is this column right here, which is essentially the follow-up attack column twice. So in turn 3, we're going to skill. Since the skill triggers a follow-up, we're going to follow up, and then the 2 enemies, or the 2 allies that hit enemies, are going to trigger 2 extra follow-up attacks. So this is a really, really high damaging turn. And then on turn 4, it's pretty much a repeat of turn 1. And then we're up with, and then we're left with about 80 energy. So we're going to need about 2 more turns or to kill a few mobs to be able to ult 1 more time. The total damage over 4 turns with this particular setup, again, this is only Dr. Ratio, his traces, and his build by himself. Nothing else. Nothing influencing his damage. 101k, about 102k, nothing crazy. One thing to note with Dr. Ratio is that building crit rate on him is actually really easy. For his traces, he gets 12% crit rate from his traces, 15% from summation, and then Stellar C gives you 16 more. Salsoto gives you another 8. So with that, you're already at 51, which is enough to activate Salsoto itself. And this is without any crit rate subs in it. So building crit rate with Dr. Ratio using Stellar C at S5 is really, really easy. All right, taking a look at his E1, it reads the maximum stackable count for the trace summation increased by 4. When battle begins, immediately obtains 4 stacks of summation, and you obviously need to unlock summation first. Essentially, this right here, what you see right there, the 4 extra stacks, you activate at the beginning of the fight. So you go into the fight with 10% extra crit rate and 20% extra crit damage. That is unfortunately everything it does. This is more of a ease of build Eidolon rather than a massive damage increase Eidolon. It's more of a quality of life Eidolon. Nonetheless, we will add what it does. So instead of 30 here, it would be 50. And then the crit rate is already added in here somewhere, 61%, because we were at 51 before. And then that'll increase our damage from the baseline that was 101.8, so 102, to about 113, which is about an 11% increase. So over 4 turns, your damage increases overall by about 11% because you're only getting this extra 20% crit damage which honestly isn't that much. Is this worth the Jades? In my opinion, it's not worth the Jades, but that is something you're going to have to decide for yourself. So that is pretty much it for the E1. For the S1, we have a lot of things going on here. So it reads, increases the wearer's crit damage by 20%. For every debuff on the enemy target, the wearer's crit damage dealt against this target increases by 8%, stacking up to 3 times. This means that with their initial crit damage is 20%, plus the 8% per stack, if you have 3, that's 24. So it's an extra 44% crit damage. Also, when using the ultimate to attack an enemy target, the wearer receives Disputation effect, which increases damage dealt by 36% and enables their follow-up attacks to ignore 24% of the target's defense. And this lasts for 2 turns. This is huge. The defense ignore is always big. So essentially how this works is if you have his S1, his ultimate will always have a 36% damage increase, which is this right here. And then the follow-up attack and skills that go after you ult for the next 2 turns also have a 36% damage increase. These yellow cells indicate that he has Disputation on him, and he is actually taking part of the 36% damage increase. These 3 tables that you see up here are the baseline for his S1, and then I have another sheet here that are his skills when they have Disputation effect on. So just for sake of not confusing you, I denoted them down here in yellow. So the ones in yellow means that he has Disputation effect. As you can see, turn 1 you're going to start skill into follow-up attack. You have 105 energy. None of the energy rotations like change because we're not adding or taking away any energy from him, so it's going to stay the same. Everything goes the same for the first 2 turns until you decide to ult. The ult is going to do the 36% enhanced damage, and then for the next 2 turns you're going to be doing 36% enhanced damage and your follow-up attack. Notice that the regular follow-up attack damage is 15,000, but the follow-up attack damage with defense ignore is about 20,000. So that is what you see here. The Wise Man Folly is when the follow-up attack activates twice, and then on the 4th turn you still have the 36% damage bonus active, which means you're overall going to be doing more damage. So this one's going to be resulting in almost in 156k damage over 4 turns, which is about a 53% damage increase overall over 4 turns with the S1. Now there is a discussion to be had that in the first 2 turns the E1 and the S1 could be comparable, so that's why I have this 2 turn total, because before the 2nd turn everything should be relatively close to each other. So if you notice, the 59,000, it's just 59,000 over 2 turns with the S1, and with the E1 is 48,000, so that's about, I don't know, like 11,000 damage in difference. So even with the 2 turns, taking away the 36% damage increase, the S1 is still higher in overall damage. So as you can see, his S1 brings much more value to him if you can get his crit rate high enough, which shouldn't be that hard since he gives himself quite a decent amount anyways. However, he will be really good at E0, S0 regardless. Cruising in the Stellar Sea is a great light cone for him, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. I personally recommend going for his S1 because I'm an S1 enjoyer, but to each his own. Overall thoughts for making these calculations, I'm thinking about not running Imaginary Damage Rope and going for Attack Orb instead, because I think it will come out to more damage overall, but that is a topic for a different video whenever I go over his overall best build. But as of right now, there you have all the information I could provide between his S1 and his E1. That is going to be it for this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and until next time guys, see ya.